Okay, so New York City, uh, I mean, just saying it out loud, it kind of conjures up so many iconic pictures in your head, right? This feeling of like crazy energy. I don't know, it's a place that just seems like it doesn't just exist. It really like influences things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you look at its influence on everything like global finance, the
Mhm.
sheer volume of its culture, the diversity of it. It's hard to think of another single city that's had such a huge impact on the entire world, really.
And that's exactly what we're gonna like dive into today, right? You've got some super interesting stuff you found about the city, and what we really want to do is like get right to the heart of the story, you know? Like how did New York become this global powerhouse? We want to make sure you really understand the forces that like shaped it, the people who built it up, and the spirit of the city, without getting lost in all the tiny details. Just imagine this as like a fast track to understanding the essence of New York City. Cool.
Exactly. We're going beyond just the basic facts and figures here.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is like understand the underlying currents, you know,
Yeah.
like the pivotal moments, or the
Yeah.
things that make New York City so important and hopefully so fascinating for everyone listening.
Okay, so let's go way back to the beginning. I mean, even before the skyscrapers, right? Before all that, this land had its own history, a story that we don't always hear about.
Yeah, that's a really important place to start. Way before any Europeans showed up, this area was the home of the Lenape people.
Mm.
Their lives were completely intertwined with the natural world around them. These guys were amazing at farming. They cultivated the land, and they were really good at fishing, too, using the rivers and the coast. They also had these well-established trading networks with other indigenous groups in the whole region, like a picture of a really successful society that was completely connected to the land.
I mean, it makes you think, doesn't it? Like to imagine that way of life existing in the exact spot where we now have this crazy dense urban landscape. So how did things start to change? How did the Europeans start to take over?
Well, the arrival of Europeans in the 1600s, the 17th century, that's when things really started to shift. It was in 1624 that the Dutch established a settlement, and they called it New Amsterdam, right there at the southern tip of Manhattan Island. At first, it was mainly a fur trading post,
Mm.
you know, focused on that super profitable trade in beaver pelts and all sorts of other furs.
And then, of course, there's that one story that everyone knows, right? The purchase of Manhattan. What exactly happened there?
Well, the story everybody talks about is from 1626, and it involves this guy, Peter Minuit, who represented the Dutch West India Company.
Hmm.
And he's the one who supposedly bought Manhattan from the Lenape. The price everyone quotes is like 60 Dutch guilders, which people usually say is equal to like 24 US dollars. But what's really interesting and where things get kind of complicated is that the Lenape and the Europeans had totally different ideas about what it meant to own land. For the Lenape, land was more like something you shared, not something you owned outright like the Europeans thought. And that difference in how they saw things really shaped the whole interaction and had a huge impact down the line.
Right. It wasn't just a simple real estate deal like we'd think of it today. So New Amsterdam's a Dutch colony for a while, but not for long, right?
Exactly. In 1664, the British took control of the whole colony, and they changed the name to New York to honor the Duke of York's. And under the British the city's location started to become really important. It grew super fast as this crucial commercial hub in the British Empire, and it benefited from all the trade and immigration that was happening.
So from a little trading post to like a major part of the British economic machine, which sets the stage for the next big thing, the American Revolution.
Oh, definitely. New York City was a super important part of the American Revolution from 1776 to 1783, although it was a pretty chaotic time. It was the site of some major battles. And get this, for a short time, in 1785, it was actually the capital of the brand new United States. Pretty amazing to think that this bustling city was the center of a new nation. It really laid the foundation for the influence it would have later on.
A short but really important chapter in how the city helped shape the early years of the United States. So let's fast forward to the 1800s, the 19th century. That was a time that really changed the city forever, don't you think?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. When the Erie Canal was finished in 1825, that changed everything. It wasn't just a canal, it's like a superhighway for the economy. It connected the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes, and that's a big deal. This one infrastructure project made it so much cheaper and faster to move stuff between America's farmlands and the rest of the world through New York's harbor. It gave the city this incredible advantage over every other port and made it clear that it was the most important commercial center in the country.
It's crazy how one project like that can have such a huge ripple effect. And then on top of that economic boom, you have this massive wave of people coming in, right? Yeah.
That's right. From the mid to late 1800s, there was this huge wave of immigration, mostly from places like Ireland, Italy, Germany, and Eastern Europe. All these people and families were coming here looking for better opportunities, trying to escape hardship. And they brought with them all these different skills, cultures, and traditions that completely reshaped what the city looked like and who lived there. And to deal with all these new people, Ellis Island opened up in 1892. It became the main entry point for millions of immigrants, and it's still this powerful symbol of hope and the whole immigrant experience in America.
Ellis Island, the gateway to a new life for so many people that changed the city forever. Moving into the 1900s, the 20th century, we see this incredible energy continuing, but there are also some really intense periods of change too, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The 1920s were a boom time for the economy, and within the African-American community, especially in Harlem, there was this amazing cultural movement called the Harlem Renaissance. It was like this explosion of art and intellectual creativity that had a lasting impact on all of American culture.
A really exciting and transformative time. But then world events kind of cast a shadow over everything, right?
You're right. During World War II, New York City was super important for manufacturing and shipping, and it really helped the Allied war effort. Its industries were crucial. But after the war, there were new problems. Things like changes in the economy, social unrest, rising crime, and urban decay that a lot of big cities had to deal with.
It makes you realize that even the most successful cities go through tough times. But New York's always been good at bouncing back, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The city went through a huge recovery and revitalization in the 1990s. But then at the start of the new millennium, something happened that changed not just New York, but the whole world.
September 11th, 2001. A day that will always be a part of the city's history.
Those attacks were devastating, and they led to long-term changes in security and how the city was planned. But the way New Yorkers came together after that tragedy and the way they rebuilt the World Trade Center site, that showed just how strong and resilient the city really is.
A powerful symbol of strength and unity. Okay, let's focus on today and the incredible diversity of the people who call New York home. The numbers are kind of mind-blowing.
The 2020 census said that New York City's population was somewhere around 8.8 million people, which makes it the most populous city in the whole U.S. But the really interesting thing is how diverse it is ethnically and culturally.
It really is a global melting pot, isn't it? Can you break down some of the different communities that make up the city?
Of course. So you've got these massive and vibrant Latino communities with huge numbers of people from Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico. There are also these huge and growing Asian American communities, including Chinese, Indian, Bangladeshi, and Korean folks. And of course, the city has a long and important history with its African American communities, especially in places like Harlem and Brooklyn. And then on top of that, you have tons of European descendant communities like Italians, Irish, and Germans who've been shaping the city for generations. This crazy mix of cultures is what gives New York its energy and makes it so dynamic.
It's hard to imagine so much diversity all in one place. And that diversity has to be a major factor in the city's economic success, right?
It's essential. New York City is a global financial center, no doubt about it. You've got Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, and tons of major financial institutions. But the city's economy is about way more than just finance.
So it's not all about suits and the stock market.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
New York City has huge industries in technology, healthcare, retail media.
Yeah.
All the advertising, publishing, broadcasting, and of course, tourism, which brings in millions of visitors every year who want to experience everything the city has to offer.
And all those industries contribute to this super rich cultural scene that New York is so famous for.
Exactly. The city is packed with world-famous cultural institutions. You've got the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Museum of Modern Art MoMA, the American Museum of Natural History. All these places have some of the most important art and science collections in the world. They attract experts and tourists alike.
And then there's Broadway, of course.
Oh, yeah. Broadway's like the heart of American theater, a global entertainment hub, and it's always coming up with new and exciting artistic expressions. It's a huge part of what makes New York so unique.
And you can't talk about New York without those iconic landmarks that everyone recognizes no matter where they're from.
Right. The Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, Central Park, Times Square, the Brooklyn Bridge. They're more than just buildings. They're symbols of the city's history, ambition, and its enduring appeal. They're a big part of what makes New York so special and why people are drawn to it.
And on top of all the culture and the economic power, New York is also this major hub for education and new ideas. Right?
For sure, it's got some of the top universities in the country, like Columbia University, New York, University NYU, and the huge City University of New York system, CUNY. These places create this amazing intellectual environment where innovation, research, and development happen across so many fields, from medicine to technology to the arts.
And to keep a city this big and busy running, you've got to have a way to move millions of people around every day.
Yeah, well, New York has an amazing public transportation system. The subway buses, ferries, they carry millions of people every single day. It's essential for city life. And then to connect New York to the rest of the world, you've got three major airports: John F. Kennedy International Airport, JFK LaGuardia Airport, LGA, and Newark Liberty International Airport, EWR, which is actually in New Jersey, but it serves the whole New York metro area. All this transportation is what keeps the city going.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into New York City, what's the big takeaway? What have we learned?
Well, I think it's clear that New York is this vibrant, always changing city with a rich history. It's driven by its incredibly diverse population and a really strong and multifaceted economy. It's a global leader in a bunch of different areas, and it attracts people from all over the world who are drawn to its culture, its opportunities, and its energy.
It sounds like a place where all these different histories and cultures come together and create something totally new.
That's it, exactly. New York City is like a living example of what happens when you blend countless cultures, a long and sometimes dramatic history, and the hopes and dreams of so many people. That's what makes it such a unique and captivating place in the world.
So as we finish up our exploration of the city that never sleeps, it makes you wonder what part of New York City's story really speaks to you, the listener, and what do you think might be the next big thing to happen in this constantly evolving city? It's something to think about as you go about your day.
Yeah, it's definitely a city that always keeps you guessing.
That's for sure. Well, that's it for our deep dive on New York City. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.